Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and with this video, I'll be discussing my thoughts on episode 10 of the anime series Shokugeki no Soma, Nino Sara, or the Second Plate, and we finally have a victor. And I gotta say, I was actually mildly disappointed it wasn't Soma. I have to admit, I was really gunning for Soma to achieve something here. But with the explanation and the going into the background of Akira in this episode that just, preceded the actual naming of who the victor in this challenge would be, seeing how much, it meant to him for June to have kind of rescued him and saved him from a life of not only poverty, but being out on the streets on his own, having been completely abandoned. I mean, I really felt for him, and it makes absolute perfect sense what, the elder Nakiri was talking about as far as which of these three chefs has brought about their specialty dish, the dish that is defined by who they are, how far they've come, and you can really see the proof in the pudding when it comes to the fragrance and the aroma and all that kind of stuff, all that gastronomy and that idea of the smell being scintillating to whet your appetite and to keep you going, to fuel your hunger. Out of these three, I mean, it was really Akira who managed to bring about a plate, and he has done this time and time and time again because that has always been his focus, the fragrance. You can see plain statedly how he lived up to that idea, that concept of the dish reflecting the chef and the chef's capabilities, their special skills. Whereas Soma definitely brought about an intriguing dish of his own. He managed to go against all expectations. I love that whole conversation about, we're basically finding out why Subaru had set his eyes on Soma to begin with. It was very much about trying to deadleg him in front of everyone who doesn't like him anyway, because of the chip he had on his shoulder since day one, where he said, this school, I'm going to beat everybody in this school. This is just a stepping stone onto a grander scheme of things in my future. He had his sets wholly at a high level from the get-go, going up against Arena and things like that, and, wanting to challenge her, not being very much impressed with the chip on her own shoulder. And he's not, he doesn't have a chip on his shoulder in a selfish way. He has everything you should aspire toward if you have any hope of learning and evolving and growing beyond a level of complacency, beyond a level of a comfort zone that you may find for yourself. If you have any hope of evolving who you are as a person and your skills, or learning a new task, learning a special ability, whether it be drawing, painting, playing an instrument, becoming the best contractor you can be, becoming the best bag boy or girl you can be. I mean, no matter what it is, on any level, if you seek to better yourself and what your capabilities are, you can reflect in that, in Soma's achievements, how far he's come. And he was recognized for that. And I love that he turned the tide of the audience, of all of these spectators who thought ill of him and thought he wasn't worth even being there, and they were just waiting. They were biding their time, waiting for that moment when his frailty would be exposed and he would lose in front of all. But he was praised by, Leonora. He was praised by Dojima. He was praised by the elder Nakiri for what he brought to the table. The idea of making this a soury porridge and going completely against expectations and yet conforming to them for certain members of the audience. And he really held his own. He managed to evolve his own skill set to be on equal footing with Akira and Ryo. And Ryo, you can see in his form and function, he basically adapted his own skills to try to get it as close to what Akira brought to the table with the fragrance and everything like that. So you can see how in this trio, in this matchup, Ryo is trying to sort of mimic, at the end of the day, he's trying to mimic Akira's fragrance approach. Soma is trying to do something unique, but not necessarily entirely his own. It's not something you can absolutely 100% point to and say, this dish is signature Soma. Yes, it's signature his adaptability, his being able to, sort of work on the fly and come up with something, but he tests and he tests and he tests and he keeps at it and at it and at it. And it's not really, in its design, it wasn't really brought about in Soma's mind as an extension of who he is, as an extension of his capabilities. It's an evolution of those things, but it's to match someone else. It's to be on level footing with someone else. And he achieved that, even if he didn't win the day. And for that acknowledgement, bringing about that humble aspect of Soma, that aspect I so admire and aspire toward myself, for him to take the lesson and not be down about it and not be defeated, not have a defeatist mindset. And some of these characters in that discussion, some of these characters, they would have gone into this matchup feeling that way. They would have felt like, what is the point? I'm never going to be good enough to reach the levels, the high arc that these other characters, Ryo and Akira, are capable of. It never entered Soma's mind to think less of himself, so less of himself that he wouldn't try. And that's a lot of why people disdain him, because, he doesn't have that same sort of hurdle that even Soma's own father had to admit to Ashiki that he himself has. Even his father admires him for that. And I love the exchange between Soma and his father toward the end. He called him up. He's like, oh, you lost. And he's making fun of him. But Soma realizes the true challenge that lays ahead of him. It's not just a matter of defeating opponents. It's a matter of understanding who he is as a person and making an extension of that, who he is as a chef, and aligning those revelations as he comes up upon them. And so for Akira to have been the winner, I felt, again, a mild disappointment that it wasn't Soma, because I was so banking on it having been him. But I almost have to say I feel much better about the outcome, the way it was handled, and to see that, objectively speaking, Akira truly managed to make a dish that was a specialty, that was a signature of what he was as a person, as a chef, and all of his capabilities. And, there was like this hint in the flashback of, are there feelings that Akira might have for June? Maybe, maybe not. I guess it's debatable. It's arguable. I don't know how much more in depth they delve into that in the manga, if they do at all, or if it's merely cursory and left to fan expectations and speculations. But when he hugged her, when she came up teary-eyed and just exalting him and cheering him on and saying, so glad you won, when he hugs her, and of course there's an awkward moment that follows, but it almost felt to me like these two love each other. And not necessarily in a romantic way, but it could go that way. But I mean, it's just, it was a brief moment of Akira letting his hair down and just sighing relief that he's come this far and he was able to live up to June's expectations, who he's doing this all for. It's not self-motivation. It's to achieve something for her, for what she did for him. And it was just beautiful. It just made it all worthwhile. And of course, by the end of the episode, the post-credits sequence where we see Nakumi and Megumi and the girls all challenging each other and trying to learn something more, taking note of what Soma's whole impetus has been and his driving force has been. And then to see the three guys, freaking Soma is like, with Ryo, they're challenging each other, and let me taste your dish. Let me see what exactly you put into it. Let's, see whose is better and everything. And, even Akira is there, and it absolutely cracked me up. And of course he doesn't want to serve him the really highbrow cookies and snacks. And Ryo is eating them like crazy. And he's like, I can hear you, It was hilarious. It was fantastic. A fantastic follow-up to an achievement made by Akira, but neither of these three guys are so distraught, are so defeatist to not want to challenge each other still, and learn more about what their capabilities are and hone them and evolve them based on what their opponents brought to the table. So damn, just freaking awesome. And of course, we leave off with the hint of what is yet to come. Now we're entering a phase where people are actually going to be actively shunted out of Totsuki Academy. Now the real game is upon us. I don't know how much further we're going to get into that, in depth into that, probably just building up to the beginnings of it with the last couple episodes in this season. I can only imagine. But it's time. It's time for everyone to buckle down, hunker down, and realize now the real game is afoot. I mean, this was all fun and games up until now. Now it's your future is at risk with every step forward you take. And it's just going to be uber, all kinds of exciting to see what Soma, his compatriots, his opponents all bring to the table. And yeah, I couldn't have asked for any better of an episode to round out the autumn elections. And so, yeah, I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below what you thought of episode 10 of Shokugeki no Soma ni no Sara. If you've seen it as well, if you're a manga reader, you know, were you happy with the translation and was everything done, you know, pretty much word for word from the page? Was anything left out without giving any spoilers? And if not, were you satisfied as I was with the outcome that Soma did not win the day and yet he still progresses forward in spite of his loss? And were you happy or upset with Akira being pronounced the winner of this match? Otherwise, I hope this video finds you well. That'll be pretty much it for me on this, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.